We at the Least Haunted Podcast stand with those of the LGBTQIA+ community and especially want to voice our support for the trans community, masculine, feminine, non-binary, and every other of the beautiful assortment of people who are going through so much vitriol and hate in these difficult times.
We welcome you to join our friendly and supportive Discord, and if you want to help support the community or need help yourself, we fully endorse the Trans Lifeline at translifeline.org. We can get through this together.
You are all deserving of life and love, and remember,
the world is more beautiful with you in it.
Hello, dig for bones.
I don't think anyone knows that I'm the one cut off your toes and put them in the drawer with the sock.
Hello, and welcome to the Least Haunted Podcast, a place where science, skepticism, humor, and anthropology meet to discuss all things spooky, haunting, supernatural, and sometimes just the plain ridiculous. I'm your host, Cody Franks, and joining me, as almost always, is hidden from harassing and haranguing hoodlums, hot and horny for harlotry, having been hunted and hollered at by horrible humans through history, hardened, haggard, and haunted by heraldic horsey harmonies, Hedgehog.
Garth. Got to get a hedgehog in there at the end. Garth, hey, it's great to be here. If this is your first episode of the Least Haunted Podcast, that was a introduction to me. I'm Garth. I'm the co-host. And this is the Least Haunted Podcast. Welcome, everyone.
So yeah, it's we call those Garth's monikers.
Yes.
And they come from our Discord server. So if you want to come up with an alliterative name for Garth, join the Discord server. This one was a group effort, combined effort between Ken with two N's, the Bi Barbarian, and Havelock.
Thank you, combined effortsies. That was great.
And I want to start off by also saying happy Pride. We forgot to say that at the beginning of the last episode. So
well, the whole episode was about a gay magician, so
yeah,
that was the point.
You know,
I guess we kind of buried the lead there a little bit. Happy Pride, everybody. We're right in the middle of it.
This episode is our second episode of Pride.
That's
and
right.
Also, we're recording this. I don't know if you want to share, but we're recording this. You are you are unmarried. But but when this comes out tomorrow, if this is the day, if you're
yeah.
Tomorrow, from the day this comes out, you will be a married man.
That's right. Yep, I'm getting married, so we're recording it earlier than normal because I'm going to be very busy next week. So yeah.
This is our last record session.
Me as a bachelor. This is basically my bachelor party right now. You're all invited. We're just going to get crazy. We got
yes.
We're going to have a unicorn show and everything. We got the unicorn in the back.
Yeah. So that's actually our topic this week, because Garth, last time, God damn it. So,
well, you were like, what should the next episode be? And I just thought, oh yeah.
I was re-listening to our previous episode while doing dishes this weekend, and it got to that point at the end, and I was just like, I said out loud to Allison, God damn it, Garth! I'm like, writing a check that my ass has to cash.
Well, I told you I told you that you could erase that part of the episode if you decided not to research unicorns.
But then, so then we just, I
just thought it'd be kind of funny.
You pitched a topic that you knew that I was gonna have to do all the research for.
Well, no matter what topic I pitch, you're gonna be the one doing all the research for it. I figured unicorns would be relatively fun.
It was.
How was researching this?
Okay, researching this was much like unicorns, an enigma, Garth.
It just kept, it was always right out of reach, like around the next tree.
Yeah.
The elusive unicorn, which is a metaphor for researching unicorns.
I came out of this, I don't think I like unicorns, Garth.
You don't like unicorns?
Kind of. It's okay. Well, now we got to explain. And
okay.
That brings us to the episode.
Yeah, let's talk about unicorns. Here we go. It's the episode.
Okay, so first, let's see if we can describe a unicorn, Garth.
What's a unicorn is like a Pegasus without wings, but also there's a horn. And the horn comes out from between the eyes, but a little bit above, pointing up at a 45-degree angle if the horse is staring straight ahead.
I was going to say, okay, your description of a Pegasus, your description is reliant on another mythical creature that not everybody would know.
Remember the TriStar intro?
It's a horse. It's a horse with a horn, yes?
Yeah, horse.
Okay.
And the horn is, I imagine, about 1.5 2 feet long, tapered, pointy, possibly spirally.
And what color is this thing?
Most likely white, but I mean, there's like little kid shows with unicorns. They're all kinds of colors, but I always imagine a unicorn to probably be white or like one of those Dalmatian horses, like with black spots.
Well, what I'm going to tell you is that that's only a kind of unicorn.
Oh, there are others.
So when you said let's do an episode on unicorns, it would have been
well,
like
because
saying,
it's Pride Month. It's like unicorns are gay, aren't they?
we'll get to that.
Okay, isn't that a
But
thing?
that is like saying, hey, let's do an episode on dragons. It's just as fucking diverse.
Oh
Garth.
no! Hey, let's do an entire episode on monsters, Cody. How about we just do all the monsters?
Unicorns are second only to dragons as like one of the most ubiquitous and widespread fantasy creatures.
Really?
Cross-culturally. Like there's a version of this in so many places.
Well, and I have a question for myself because it just occurred to me that because we were trying to think of another thing to do for Pride Month, and I immediately was like, well, unicorns. Is that kind of on the nose? Because unicorns are kind of gay. And I was like, why do I think that? What is feminine about a unicorn? Is that a modern thing?
Okay, yes.
Because I think, unicorns, girls are into unicorns. When I was a kid, I would think that.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a queer or nothing, but I think unicorns are kick-ass.
Well, you can thank Lisa Frank for that, but we'll get to that.
Because I was wondering, like, why did that pop into my head as this an association? There's no reason.
Okay, yeah,
it's a big old horse with a horn. How is that feminine?
Okay,
That's interesting.
You're putting that.
Sorry, is that like
the
later
unicorn
on?
way fucking too far in front of the cart?
Okay,
Or you're putting the cart in front of the unicorn.
All right, we'll get to that in 45 minutes, people.
We need to run that unicorn backwards and return to innocence. Garth.
Okay.
So.
All right, I've erased my mind of all things to do with this. Let's start from scratch.
Okay, when we say unicorn,
Yeah.
it is actually, if just the word itself means one horn, right? Unicorn. That's the Latin.
Mm-hmm.
In Greek, it would be monoceros. Like rhinoceros.
Why is the rhinoceros not called a monoceros? I guess it has another horn behind it.
Rhine is the nose.
Yeah.
And then ceros is a horn, like triceratops, 3 horns.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
got
okay.
it.
So Sarah is horn.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's a monoceros, mono, one horn. Unicorn, one horn. So it's the Greek and the Latin version.
Okay.
We call the rhinoceros because he has the horn on his nose. It's on the rhinum.
Right. Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's the nose.
So
horn.
a unicorn would be a cranioceros because the horn comes out of the top of the head.
Yes,
something like that.
But okay, so any number of beasts that has a single horn.
Are there any actually?
No.
Okay, I was thinking they're always coming twos. They're on either side of the head.
Other than rhinos.
Well, and those even have a big one and then a little one behind.
But there were some extinct species that only had one.
Okay, good to know. Okay.
We'll get to the Siberian unicorn later. So, the earliest depiction of something that would match this description actually comes from the Indus River civilization.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
A place called Mohenjo-Daro.
I think that's come up before. That sounds familiar.
It's in the Mesopotamian song.
That's probably why it's familiar.
Yeah, Ashurbanipal says, my haircut makes me look like a Mohenjo-Daran.
Except for Ashurbanipal, who says my haircut makes me look like a Mohenjo-Daran.
Hey, Ashurbanipal, I'm a Mesopotamian.
Yes. And that dates to 2500 BCE.
Wow. Okay.
Is Mohenjo-Daro. So that's also, I think, around the time of
4,500 years ago.
Around the time the earliest stages of Stonehenge were being built.
Okay.
And this is in India. And it's considered one of the first civilizations. They had like planned roads.
Is this after Mesopotamia?
It's kind of contemporary. Okay. Before. It's like
in India. Okay.
In India. Okay. In the Indus Valley. There are these seals, like these embossed seals that were stamped into clay and stuff.
Oh, I see.
That depict an animal in profile that looks very cow-like. And it has a long, kind of somewhat curved horn sticking out straight ahead. Okay. So some people have said that this is a unicorn.
But it's in profile, so you might only be seeing one side.
Okay,
and
so
the other horn is right behind the first horn.
So that is an argument that is made for it, because it also only has one ear in this. Until somebody also seems to have found an example of, here's a depiction of the unicorn animal and a cow with 2 horns in profile.
Okay.
And another animal. So it shows that they
Okay.
would draw both horns if it was in profile.
Yep,
so
yep,
that
yep,
then
yep.
implies that, okay, this is something that only has 1 horn sticking forward.
That would imply that.
and
yeah.
that starts showing up on coinage as well. Interestingly, the accounts we have of unicorns from antiquity, when I say antiquity, I'm talking like ancient Greece.
Before, like, more than 2,000 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. Ancient Greece and
Yeah.
Rome and stuff, we collectively call that antiquity. Those earliest reports all claim that the unicorn was a real animal that lived somewhere far away. Where did it live? Take a guess, Garth.
In the East. If it was Greek, they're probably saying it was from, like, Africa or the Middle East or something.
Well, we just explained that the very first depictions
India.
of it. Yeah,
India.
India,
Oh, okay.
exactly. They all say it's in India.
Did they know about India in ancient
Yeah.
Greece? Oh, okay. Because of the Silk Road and
I
stuff.
mean, Alexander the Great made it to India.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
of
they
course.
knew about
Okay.
India, but it's also interesting that, like, okay, there might have been some trade going on between, like, because there's also things in Mesopotamia that can be argued to be like, that's a unicorn,
okay.
in what are they called? Frescoes and shit.
Yeah.
They have like tiled things on walls.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
tiled art.
Yeah.
The tile art. There's
So,
a word for it.
Um,
So the Greeks did know about India as a faraway land. I've heard that, like,
there were people who spoke Greek in India.
it might have been Archimedes or I think it was Socrates in one of his things. He was describing all these foreign animals, and like some are real and others are like giant ants the size
Yeah.
of humans. So it's like it's a mix up of like
Well,
fantasy creatures and real ones, because these are just stories they had heard.
Yeah,
And-
and so it's also
yeah,
it's
so
also
they're
easy
mixing
to
them all
say.
up.
Yeah, it's also easy to say like they could use India as a catch-all for like that's for anything that's far-fetched happens in India.
Okay,
Right.
that's it. So
later
okay.
it would become China, right?
Right.
Like anybody who
That's
was,
what I was thinking.
yeah.
Oh, they said it came from the East. That's like the
Right,
exotic
exactly, yeah.
unknown.
yeah, it came from Tibet.
Right.
I mean, by the time of the Romans, the Silk Road is in operation. They're getting silk in Rome from
Yeah, so they're-
China,
Yeah.
but it passes through Pakistan and the Himalaya and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So it's possible that like also people remembered this maybe a deity or sacred animal in
Well, and since the Silk Road's going, I mean, yeah, they're trading goods, but there's also people traveling all along it. So they're trading stories and information too. So there's there's stories coming from the East as well.
also within India there is a myth that kind of has echoes in the unicorn story. They talk about this antelope horn. It's like a sacred
Antelope porn. What have you
Yes.
been? Antelope porn. Wow.
antelope horn.
Oh,
Yeah.
antelope horn.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you said antelope porn.
But it does involve some sexy times. The idea is that there's like an animal that would be considered like a unicorn, but it's an antelope with a single horn,
Uh-huh.
and it needs to be seduced by a young woman.
Oh.
And then who because it's an animal that has this like sacred heat, and then through the seduction she turns it into sexual heat, which then becomes fertility and is good for crops and stuff. And so that's
Wait. What does she do for the crops then?
the point is that it's been interpreted as a metaphor for drought in the rain season,
Okay.
but it's depicted as this like single antlered animal
Oh.
and a woman. This will come up again later. We'll get to this. This will come up, this idea of a woman and the unicorn. That becomes a pretty big deal. About
Is there an
unicorns.
indication that when there was a drought, women would try to do this, or
No,
was it
no.
a metaphor? Okay.
It's a myth. It's
okay.
a story.
Got it.
It's a story
That's
that
good.
is told. And then it moves along the Silk Road. So it reaffirms these earlier stories of there's something with one horn in India.
Okay.
This eventually gets called the Indian ass.
Uh-huh.
Because that's where it kind of is equine, but it's got different descriptions. So for starters,
Were there donkeys in India?
yes,
Okay.
wild horses, asses. Okay, so
Cody's got a tome. That's a big old book. What is that?
this book has made an appearance once before. This is the history of four-footed beasts and serpents and insects.
What that looks
by
like
Howard Topsell this is the 1658 edition.
it looks like an old book.
Yeah.
What's its copyright?
I just said it. I just told you, 1658.
That's a 400-year-old book in your hands?
It's a reprint. That
Oh,
was
okay.
made, yeah, it was a reprint that was done in like the 1960s.
Oh, cool.
But the edition that it covers is the 1658.
Wow.
You really don't remember this?
Well, I need to look at it.
This is the second time it's made an appearance on the show, Garth.
Hey, there's a unicorn on the front.
Yeah. Anyway, point is, I read this
This
thing.
entire book.
No, I read the whole chapter on unicorns.
Of the lion, of the Ichinuman, of the horse.
Yeah, it's got other mythical creatures that are in there as well, though. It's got
the horse is a big
bulimia,
one.
it's got a manticore, it's
Hedgehog, hare, fox, elephant, dogs, coney, ox. Okay, here.
Okay, so we're getting out into the weeds now.
Yeah.
One description of the unicorn of India to you, Garth, and you're
Okay.
going to tell me, like, what? Okay.
Okay.
Certain mountains in the midst of India, unto the which the passages is very difficult, where are abundance of wild beasts, and among other unicorns, which the Indians call cardizonans, who in their ripe age are as big as a horse, and their mane and hairs are yellow, excelling in the celerity of their feet and bodies, having feet cloven like elephants,
What?
the tail of a boar, and one black horn growing out betwixt their eyebrows, not smooth, but rough all over with wrinkles, and the same groweth to a most sharp point.
Wow. That does not sound like a unicorn that I imagine. That's a remarkably easy to understand passage for being from the 1600s. I figured it would be full of weirder words.
But here's the thing, though. If I described an animal to you, like it's about, maybe about, the size of a large horse.
Yeah.
Its feet
Look like elephant
are like
feet.
elephant feet.
Yeah, cloven like an
tail
elephant.
is like a wild boar.
Yeah. Piggy
And it has a
tail.
horn. It's a fucking rhino, dude. I just described to you a goddamn rhinoceros. They're
Yeah.
Indian rhinos.
Yeah, no, you actually did, because their feet are the same as an elephant or similar. And they do have like a foot, or they have little tails with tassels on the ends. Yeah, that's a rhino.
But then later they go into they say some people claim it's a rhino, but let me tell you, it's not a rhino. The horn actually is different colored. So the unicorn horn, the middle of it is black.
Oh,
The root of it is white.
okay.
And the top of it is purple. So I argue to you, Garth, unicorns are not gay. They're demisexuals.
Oh, yeah, with the like the flag.
Yes.
I like it. I like it.
Okay, so
I'm convinced.
the idea of the three-colored horn, though, is an important part for, I think Pliny brings it up, and...
Boy,
some
Pliny
other-
the Elder talked about everything.
Yes.
It just
Because,
keeps
so the
coming
belief
up.
was that in India, they would hunt this animal, and they would make cups out of its horn, and that the cup, if you drank from it, it would cure illness and poison,
Uh-huh.
and also maybe bestow immortality.
Oh,
So
sure.
that's the thing that becomes a standard of the unicorn horn, has these abilities. That it can...
Probably gives you a hard on, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because for a long time they were selling rhino horn and marketing it as unicorn horn.
I'm sure they still do in some places
Yes.
in the world.
Um,
Sadly enough, rhino horn is very popular as an
Yeah.
aphrodisiac, I think.
so yeah, you had people who were going around selling unicorn horn of various kinds throughout history, trying to oh, this will cure your problems. This becomes eventually such a big deal in the Middle Ages that kings of Europe are spending small fortunes to buy unicorn horns.
Wow. And it's actually rhino horn.
No, in these cases, these unicorn horns happen to come from Danish traders.
So what would the Danish have? Narwhals?
Yeah.
I was just thinking the narwhals are Arctic, and oh my gosh, the poor narwhals.
I don't know if it's too early to jump into Garth's corner.
We could
right
do Garth's
now.
Corner, sure.
And then
Garth's
we'll-
Corner often ends up at the end, but sometimes Garth Corner is elusive, like the rare
stumble into
unicorn, and suddenly you turn the corner and you find yourself face to face with Garth's Corner. Oh, narwhal, narwhal, oh, narwhal, narwhal, oh, what a nar you wall. You wall those nars now. You gnar the walls, you're a walling nar. You really wall those nars. You narwhal, hey, it's a song about narwhals, and it's not Welcome to Garth's Corner. So this is all about narwhals. As Cody mentioned, the Danish people were stealing these poor little narwhals. They're not little; they're pretty big actually. But these guys' horns, and saying that they're actually the horns of unicorns. So we're gonna learn a little bit about narwhals right now. Cody, what do you know about narwhals? You said you already did some research, thinking I was going to do a Garth's Corner about something else.
Well, I know that they are cetaceans, they're whales, they are Arctic dwelling, and they have one really long tooth.
Modified extended tooth, yes.
Yeah, that sticks out. And without the tooth, they're kind of like a beluga whale sized thing.
Yeah, very good, yes.
I think there's a famous story of a narwhal that got adopted by a pod of beluga whales.
I could see that happening because they are known to interbreed a little bit.
And
apparently.
when I was in third grade, we had a project where we had to create a new myth, like an Aesop's Fable type animal
cool.
myth. And mine was about a unicorn that was drowning. It was saved by a whale, and then it gave it its horn in exchange. And that's why there's no more unicorns, but there are narwhals.
That's a really, really good story. You've always been a storyteller. Look at that. You wrote that as a kid. That's amazing. All right. So the narwhal is, yes, in fact, an Arctic whale. Not the biggest whale when you think about a whale, but they are pretty big. They're if you you and I are sitting about 4 feet away from each other. We're only about a third of a narwhal away from each other. They get really long.
So 12 feet?
Something like that.
Okay.
If you want to put a number on it, sure.
Yeah, like a little around 3 meters, maybe.
Sure. The narwhal is an Arctic whale. It is the only member of the genus Monodon and one of 2 living representatives of the family Monodontidae.
Do you know what monodon means?
Single don.
Tooth. Dont.
The other being the beluga whale, which doesn't have a modified extended horn, but they are related, and that's why they hang out sometimes. The beluga
friends.
whale is known for always smiling. Have you seen beluga whales? They're always smiling.
Beluga whales are some of the weirdest fucking, because like
Oh, I like them. They're
I
so
saw them
funny
at the Vancouver Aquarium.
Oh, really?
And it's weird as like when they swim, you can see their hip bones, and it's a really weird, disconcerting thing. Like,
Are they like moving their hips and like
They're like, "Hi."
hey? They're just like strutting around as they
It's
swim.
fucking weird. This bony protrusions. It just grosses me out. Anyway,
The narwhal has a blunt snout, a large melon, which is the bulbous part on the top of the head, and a shallow ridge instead of a dorsal fin. And the males have a 5 to 6 foot long horn.
Mhm.
Actually, it's a tusk. It's a modified extended tooth. It's a left top canine. I was thinking, so they have just one tooth. Which side of the mouth is it? It's always the left.
Huh.
It's a canine tooth from the top of the jaw. And one might expect that it's a weapon or a tool for attracting mates. There are different ideas about what the horn
I think
actually
it's for
is
digging
for.
up clams.
There's lots of different theories. We're going to get into that. Their dominion is similar to the beluga, and they are known to both families are known to try to interbreed sometimes. So there's a little bit they're distinct, but maybe I don't know if they can produce fertile offspring, but they're
Hey, Vince, sometimes you want something that's different,
they
but not
get
that
together.
different.
They get together sometimes.
Look, some people, some animals, it's just they're just looking for a unicorn in bed.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
Everybody's looking for a unicorn.
The more adventurous ones will get together. They live around Canada, Greenland, Upper Asia, sort of around the Arctic, not right in the middle, but
Is it
around
Upper Asia.
Russia, Upper Asia. I don't know the northern part of Asia that touches the North Pole. It doesn't
Okay.
quite touch, but
Yeah.
the on the map. Imagine the
Okay.
top of Russia. Yeah, Upper Asia. I don't know. They eat squid, shrimp, cuttlefish, halibut, and cod. They can go into depths of about 2,000 meters or 8,000 feet, more or less, which is just amazing to me. They generally live in pods of 3 to 8, but they will get together in the summer into big parties of about 1,000. So they are pretty social creatures.
Narwhal parties.
Yeah, narwhal parties. I bet there's some belugas invited to those too. So they mate in offshore ice packs of ice around March and May, and then they raise their young between July and August of the following year. So their gestation goes around.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a full year, but that's
sounds
sort of
like-
the way it
that
goes.
sounds like longer
It
than
sounds
a
like
year.
longer. Yeah, I didn't look
Bigger,
into that.
usually general rule, bigger the animal, longer gestation.
So it could be longer than ours, yeah. So this is what they sound like. Insert narwhal clicking clip. I'll find it.
What did that narwhal just call me?
There are about 170,000 narwhals. They're estimated to be that many living out in the open, and they are listed as being of least concern by the International Union of Conservation of
Don't
Nature.
concern yourself
Yeah,
with the narwhals.
so
They're fine.
I assumed that, well, these are so interesting, such interesting creatures, they're probably endangered. Nope. There's plenty.
They're fine.
Lots of endangered whales out there. The narwhal is not one of them. Fossil evidence suggests that prehistoric mondotatids lived in tropical waters, so there once were tropical narwhals.
Just like how there's manatees and dugongs in tropical waters, but they used to be in the Arctic.
Yeah, so over time, creatures that were adapted to one can switch to the other. So yeah, a tropical narwhal. They may have migrated to the Arctic and subarctic region in response to changes in the marine food chain. So everybody's following food, so that's probably why they moved. So what about the horn? There was a phylogenetic study conducted in 2020 that suggests the narwhal split from the beluga whale around 5 million years ago, based on mitochondrial DNA. So the horn has developed since then because the beluga whale doesn't have a horn.
Yeah.
The most conspicuous part is the horn. So yes, we're going to talk about that. It actually is a spiral tusk. So if you look at it closely, it has a spiral to it.
That's why it was easy for the Danes to pass it off as a unicorn.
And it's probably
horn.
one of the reasons I was imagining a unicorn
Yeah.
horn to be spirally, because the narwhal's is. Both sexes have a pair of tusks embedded in the upper jaw, but it's only in the males that it erupts out of their lip around 2 or 3 years of age. Although there have been examples, for instance, Fry's narwhal in Futurama, of a female narwhal. With the rare horned female narwhal does exist. Current scientific consensus indicates the narwhal tusk is actually a secondary sexual characteristic, and that's its main thing. There are debates among biologists as to what the reason for it.
So we never see them sword fight.
Well, that's
You'd
the thing.
probably
They were thinking, oh, well, maybe they use it to fight, but other people say, well, it's probably better for feeding. Apparently, there's a lot of nerve endings in the narwhal horn. It's not just like a piece of bone. So
yeah, imagine your tooth has nerves in the middle.
Exactly, and there's millions of nerve endings in this very long tooth. And so it allows narwhals to sense temperature variations and all kinds of things. So it could be like one of the things they use for navigation. It's like a navigating
But then why would only the males have it?
Well, that's the other thing. There are females hunt and survive just fine without it.
Yeah.
So you don't a narwhal doesn't need its horn, which helps people decide, well, maybe it is like a sexual selection type of a thing, because it's not essential for survival. According to Miriam Niwa, who's studies these things, male narwhals may rid themselves of encrustations on their tusks by rubbing them together. So they're not sword fighting; they're just rubbing. They're rubbing their tusks to get the barnacles off, which is pretty adorable. Drone footage from 2016 revealed that narwhals use their tusks to tap and stun small Arctic cod, making them easier to catch. So they'll sneak up behind a cod and tap it, and the cod's like, "What the fuck?" And then they'll grab them. Females who usually do not have tusks live longer than males, so the tusk can't be essential for survival. It's generally accepted that it's a sexual selection thing. So really, like with so many creatures that have ridiculous appendages, it's because the other sex thinks that that's super hot. So that is why narwhals have tusks. And that is the end of Garth's Corner.
What the fuck?
It's the British cops. They're after us.
That was weird.
Lots of weird noises happening outside Least Haunted Studios today.
So these quote-unquote unicorn horns end up in the collections of a lot of royalty in Europe, as well as churches want them. Because somewhere
Why do
along
churches want them?
it becomes a Christian thing.
Really?
Yeah. But as he's describing them, he's like, they're about 5-6 feet in length. They're heavy, but they're also really like narrow. He said that the base seems to be hollow up to a certain point, which would make sense if it had a bunch of nerves and stuff that were in there,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Then he says, this one guy claims that it's actually the tooth of some beast, but of which kind of beast I can't imagine.
Some
And so it's
very-
like, so there was somebody's like, yeah, I know narwhals. That's a fucking narwhal tooth, guys. And they're like, shut up. You're gonna blow the scam.
So was the unicorn one of? I feel like we've done so many mythological creatures in this episode, in this show that Noah just didn't get together to bring on the ark. Is the unicorn one of them that like just didn't make it?
So the deal is that we also have to start kind of formalizing the appearance of the unicorn.
Oh yeah,
right?
they've been all over the place.
Yes.
It's a rhinoceros with a narwhal.
So
I don't
one
know.
thing that it starts to be described more as a goat.
Oh, okay. So a little guy.
So the deal is that it always has cloven hooves, which horses do not.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, a horse has a singular hoof
Yes.
without parts.
Which
to
then
it.
led to, I think it might have been Aristotle to have some kind of like thing where he's like, surely this proves that an animal with cloven hooves can only have one horn. Oh no, there was some kind of weird thing about like the fact that it had a cloven hoof meant that it could have one horn, but if its hoof was closed, it'd have to have two, but that doesn't make sense because goats have two horns and they have a cloven hoof, you weird Greek dead guy.
And then Zeno said that actually unicorn motion is all an illusion because if a unicorn goes between me and you, it has to get to the halfway point, then the next halfway point. So
How's it ever going to return to innocence?
unicorns don't move. Yeah, that's right.
It gets described as like, it is a chimera. Ultimately, it is a chimera.
Sure, it's an animal with, and then you add the horn.
Well, they're like, okay, it has the legs of an antelope with the cloven hooves of the antelope. So now we're
And
getting
the
that
horn,
India.
the horn of a narwhal.
It has a horn. They sometimes describe it as being a horn like that of a hart. Now, a hart is a deer.
Oh.
It's a name for deer.
Deer horn.
Yeah,
Okay, well
so
that's
like a
a
deer
very different
antler,
kind of a horn.
sticking out of
I'm trying to imagine what shape that would be because deer antlers have that curve to them.
The directionality of the horn is also variable. Depending on artistic depictions, it's either going forward. In some, it sweeps back.
Oh, that's cool. Slick back horn.
So they start to say, okay, it has the body of a horse, but it has like the head of a goat, and it has a horn. Its tail is actually the tail of a lion.
Oh, nice. We're
Or like a
upgrading.
zebra, where it's like a long thing with,
With
a
the
little
tassel
tuft
on
at
the end.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. So it is this chimera creature.
I think I should draw a unicorn for the episode art.
Some
Just
like
based
Pliny,
on all of this.
Pliny said that it had an all black horn. Then we
Right.
saw that other description that said no,
Black,
it has,
white, and purple.
Yeah, black, white, and purple. One says is actually that the unicorn has a white body, but its head is red and its horn is purple. And it has
that's
blue
cool.
eyes.
That's great. Whoa.
So we're starting to get some kind of rainbow-like colors. 'Cause
Yeah,
eventually they're
we
going to
need
be
a few more
associated-
colors.
Yeah, they'll be associated with rainbows.
That's right.
Um,
Rainbows and unicorns.
so how it all gets wrapped into the Christianity thing
Yes.
is that there's a mistranslation. There's a Hebrew word that is re'em.
Mhm.
R-E''em, re'em. And it shows up like 19 times in the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
And the description of it is being an animal with horns or a horn. And it is often described as being something that is untamable. I think one of them is like in the book of Daniel, they like say something about like, you know, you could never hitch a plow to the re'em and have it like plow your kingdom for you kind of thing. Right.
Uh-huh.
And so there was a mistranslation that happened into the Greek and then from the Greek on where somebody just at some point just plugged in, they're like, oh, they're actually talking about a rhino, which they then mistakenly called a monoceros, which then became unicorn in Latin.
Whoa. So rhinos appear in the Bible.
Right.
Wow.
But current scholarly theories suggest that it is actually a wild ox or the aurochs is what they're talking about.
Okay.
Can you give me a piece of paper and something to draw on? Oh, that's your...
Yeah, you can draw on this.
Okay. So there's a
Here,
cognate.
let me get a...
So a cognate is when you have like, you know, the words that sound the same
Yeah.
and yeah.
And then a false cognate would be
Okay. So
two words in two different languages that sound the same but have different meanings. Cody is drawing me a picture.
There's a cognate in, I think it's like Sumerian and cuneiform.
Okay.
So in the Hebrew, it's re'em. In
Yeah.
that one, it's ra'am, right?
That's pretty similar.
And this is how you would depict it in cuneiform.
All right, so we have an equilateral triangle on its side, so one of the sides is perfectly vertical, and it's pointing like an arrow to the right, and then there are two horizontal lines along the vertical side that are equidistant.
So the thing about cuneiform, it's made with wedges and triangles.
Yeah, you don't want a lot of curves.
They all started out, most of the cuneiform, as symbolic, and then they became
like little pictograms,
right?
Yeah.
But they turned them on their sides. So Garth, what this wild beast is? If I
turning
flip
it 90 degrees.
if I flip it over, what animal would that be? An ox?
Sure, yeah. That's the triangle's a vaguely I guess the head of an ox, and then
With
it's
two
got
horns.
two little horns sticking
Yes,
up. Okay.
because in the
I'll buy that.
in the Mesopotamian, it is a wild ox of chaos.
Why did it end up sideways? Is it just
That's just how they're stylistically.
stylistic?
they just-
Okay.
So anyway, with a stylus.
Yeah, literally stylist.
Oh, that's funny.
Dick.
Okay, so
Interesting.
so it got
okay.
but because it got mistranslated as unicorn, once that shows up in biblical texts, and there's literalism of the Bible, the unicorn must be a real animal.
Mm.
They don't, and it must have made it on the ark because then it's talked about after the ark, and it's
Okay.
probably still around,
Wow.
right? So
We better go find it.
we're gonna get into some more bizarre ways this enters into Christianity, and then we'll get to like modern times. But first, we have to go dig for some bones, horns.
Imagine a world where time drifts slowly. A world where music carries you away. Experience pure moods, the perfect soundtrack for your way of life. Direct from Europe, this multi-platinum collection has won the hearts of millions. Set adrift with the timeless pleasures of tubular bells. Or take a trip into the unknown with the X-Files theme. No other collection gives you the feeling of pure moods. To order Pure Moods, call the number on your screen or send check or money order for the amount shown, plus shipping and handling. Rush delivery available. Call now.
So anyway, so long story short, that's why I'm not allowed in the Guitar Center anymore.
Well, I mean, I can understand that. Damn. So are we back?
Oh yeah, we're back. Welcome back, everybody. So I said that we were gonna talk more about this folding in of unicorns into Christianity, because that gets pretty wild.
Folding unicorn sounds really tricky.
So
I don't think that I would be worried about being gored, I think.
from the earliest accounts in antiquity of this mythical unicorn that lives in India, one thing that was always constant about it is that it's untamable.
Mhm.
It's wild, Although in the Middle Ages, they figure out how to catch a unicorn.
How do you catch a unicorn?
Well, remember how I was telling you about in India, there's that story of the young girl that has to seduce the one-horned antelope?
Oh yeah.
Well, in the Christian Middle Ages, it's that you have to have a virgin,
Of course.
and she will sit out in a forest, and the unicorn, because here's the thing, Garth, all unicorns are male. I don't know how they reproduce.
How does that work?
I don't know. And they are
Probably the female unicorn just doesn't have a horn. It's like a narwhal.
And-
it's a horse.
these male unicorns are particularly horny,
Well, that makes sense.
and they want to fuck a virgin.
Well, sure.
And it's apparently, according to one of the accounts, they are attracted to, quote, the odor of virginity.
What is that? Just BO? What does that smell like?
And they show up and they will try,
teenager.
and it says that they will try to like suckle from the virgin's breast, which is like, dude, if you're attracted to virgin,
Dude, that's
there's
not
no milk
gonna
there.
work.
It's not
That's
gonna work.
Yeah, I don't know.
And eventually they give up and they
Dumb
will lay
unicorn.
down and they will put their head in the maiden's lap and go to sleep. At which point,
At which point the maiden's dead because they have a big horn and they just put their head in her lap and they skewered her.
no, but they do in art. The idea of having a horn in her lap is intentionally a sexual
That's
reference.
suggestive. Yeah, I can
Yes.
see that. Okay.
Um,
So the horn is sort of to the side.
Yes.
Okay.
And then at which point, usually the men will come out and kill it with a spear. You got to kill it because it will never be taken alive.
Right.
Right. But you need that horn because it can cure potion.
Aim
poison.
true because there's a maiden right there next to the unicorn. So you got to be careful.
What
where
happens
you spear.
but what happens if she's not really a virgin? Like she did hand stuff.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because that would count in the old Christianity. Hand stuff no longer.
The unicorn smells it when it gets close enough,
Oh.
and then will gore
You
her
s-
and kill her with its horn.
You smell like you've had a dick near you.
Now, there's
Yeah,
this idea
okay.
that like there's a recent horror movie that came out that was called Death of a Unicorn, which I really want to watch. But it seems to go into this idea that unicorns were inherently these violent monsters. That isn't really a thing. I mean, if they're violent by the fact that they are untamable, yes.
Horses, wild
If
horse
they're-
is already kind of scary.
Yeah.
Imagine a giant horn.
The idea that they would gore a fake virgin, yes. And then I think Pliny also talks about it, like attacking some guy and ripping his entrails out. But that's just because it's territorial as fuck. But there also
Oh.
might be talking about rhinos at that
The
point.
guy was probably trying to spear him because apparently that's what people were doing.
So you have this idea of it's like a sexual thing, but it's
Mhm.
not sexual. And then because she's a virgin, that becomes a stand-in for the Virgin Mary.
Okay, so we're gonna get into
The
some
unicorn,
other metaphor
So
here.
now we shift. The unicorn, Garth, is Jesus.
How the hell would you crucify a horse? Because the legs don't spread.
No. So the horn,
Yeah.
that's the cross because it points towards heaven in much the way that the cross. I'm telling you, this is all shit that actual theologians said. That the cross pointed towards heaven and led Jesus to heaven. Now the idea is that the unicorn,
So
is-
Jesus, when he was resurrected, he followed the unicorn horn up a rainbow to heaven.
maybe.
Okay.
There is a series of tapestries, Garth,
Tapestries.
that's called The Hunt of the Unicorn.
Okay. This is what you wanted me to do for Garth's Corner.
Yes, and you forgot.
So this will be Cody's Corner, picking up Garth. Cody's picking up Garth's Slack Corner. Tell me all about this. I'm excited.
They are from the late 1500s and were most likely made in France. Now, tapestry is really hard to do. This is like,
It's like you're making a rug or you're quilting, not quilting.
but you're
it's
like you
tighter
are
than
weaving
that.
the images
woven.
into the actual fabric.
That takes
Whereas,
planning.
which is different than needlepoint.
Or than painting on fabric.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So, like the Bayeux tapestry, I think they call it a tapestry, but it's actually cross stitch, which is different.
Oh, okay.
Whereas these are actual tapestries.
You have to have
and
the
they're
whole artwork figured out ahead of time, and then you just start scanning one line at a time, like
Yeah.
a printer, and
And
you have
they
to
are
have it all
huge.
designed.
and these ones are huge. They are, I think, 10-foot squares,
Wow.
and there's 7 of them, and they are in a series, and it depicts a unicorn hunt. And it starts with some men who are out in a forest, and then they come upon a scene which is known as the water conning. And this is another medieval belief about unicorns. So because a unicorn horn can cure poisons, that stands to reason, right?
Yeah.
Well, one thing that can poison stuff is snakes and venomous animals. If they like drink from a water source, that water source is tainted.
Oh, if
Or they
if the
swim-
snake drinks
Yeah,
from
or if the
okay.
snake swims through the water, you can't drink that water.
Because the poison just leaked out of the snake.
snake-
The snake was sloppy double dipping.
Somebody poisoned the
Saliva.
watering hole with a snake in my boot.
He was talking about the same thing.
But what would happen? And so other animals could sense it and they wouldn't drink from it until a unicorn arrives and puts its horn into the water in an
Oh.
act called the water conning, and then that purifies it. This is a metaphor for communion, the blood of Christ, purifying
Totally.
sins by the sin of the snake.
All week you've had poisonous animals swimming through your soul, and now the unicorn's gonna dip his horn in and
The horn
make
that
it
is the
all
cross,
good.
his crucifixion.
Yeah.
And this, as we're going to find out, this scene, this series of scenes of the hunt of the unicorn mirrors also the life of Jesus in a way, or the
Okay.
crucifixion of Jesus.
All right, let's see how this works. This is great.
So the next scene in it is I think is when they introduce the Virgin. This is the Virgin Mary, and then the unicorn is distant from her. And this is the fact that if the unicorn is Jesus and she is the Virgin Mother, who the unicorn must come to her. Right?
Okay, this is like fetus Jesus coming to her.
And they like put a bunch of other coded, like these things are incredibly encoded.
It's all symbols and stuff.
I watched and fell asleep during I watched multiple things about it, but then there was one that was going on for a really long time that I finally fell asleep last night to, about just all the religious symbolism in here, because we have Adam and Eve are coded into it. There's the apple, so that's the original sin, and then
gotta focus on one thing.
Yeah.
No, we're putting everything in the tapestry. If I'm gonna spend months on this thing, I'm gonna put every symbol in it.
we get to the fifth tapestry in the series is the one we have the least remaining of, because here's what happened. These were made in the 1500s as potentially as a wedding gift to the King of France. I think it was Louis the 12th.
Oh, okay.
And his wife. And they think it's that way because the Virgin is depicted wearing the colors of Brittany, which is where she was from. And so she's supposed to be standing in for the Virgin.
Oh, okay.
And they say that the images of her and then a man who's in it later resemble actual known pictures of that king and queen. So they think this was done as a wedding gift.
It's like a portraiture of the bride and groom.
That is also telling the story of Jesus with them inserted into it.
What else can you put into this thing? All these symbols, and
but see, here's the thing: is that during the French Revolution, artwork that depicted anything of royalty was destroyed. So these they vanished, they disappeared. We have records of them before, and then they disappear. During the French Revolution, they show up again in 1850 being used to cover produce boxes in like a barn in France.
So they found them again.
But the fifth one is like almost only, I think, 4 feet of the original 10 survive.
Oh, wow.
And this seems to be the scene that would actually have depicted the Virgin trapping the unicorn.
That would be like the best one. That's the one we're missing. Okay.
Then scene 6 is them killing the unicorn.
Aw.
Does
the Virgin feel a little bit bad about this? Because
yeah, she does. The one thing I watched said that she had this like look on her face of like, I can't believe what I've done, and I'm like, I don't read that expression from that tapestry. It's just kind of a blank expression.
Well,
but
all medieval artwork shows people with blank expressions, and they're like, oh, this is this person being boiled alive, and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
not a lot of expressions in old faces. Yeah.
I seem to have been flayed alive. Ouch.
Yes. Oh gosh.
So see, in 6 though, we have a bunch of other stuff that is the crucifixion. So he's being stabbed with a spear. Jesus was stabbed with a spear up on the cross.
Sure.
But there in one of the scenes, when the unicorn is approaching the Virgin for the first time, there's a guy blowing a horn in the back. That's the Archangel Gabriel blowing his horn because it's the annunciation of Jesus in that scene.
Which character is depicted like Louis the 12th? One of the killers of the unicorn?
It's when the unicorn is being killed.
Because that would make him killing Jesus.
In the scene when they are killing the unicorn, there is the Virgin and a man next to her.
Oh, okay.
And they are like being presented with the unicorn. It's like a scene where the unicorn's being stabbed. It's 3 in 1. Unicorn stabbed, unicorn slung over the back of a horse, dead, being presented to this king and queen who look kind of like, oh. But then, here's the kicker though. The 7th image is the most famous of the series. And that is called the unicorn in captivity.
Oh, okay.
At which point the unicorn seems to have been resurrected and is in a small fenced-in garden, chained to a tree.
Oh,
right. And at that period, there was a term for an enclosed garden, which also meant the Virgin Mary. Like it was a euphemistic way of talking about the Virgin Mary. It's like the enclosed garden or whatever. And so you have the unicorn in this enclosed garden. Point is, the people at the time, they knew what it meant.
Yeah.
We we have to explain all this stuff. But to them, it was like pretty obvious. Like, you don't get it. It's obviously that they want to have sex with their mother.
The enclosed garden, as a metaphor, I guess makes sense because if you're a virgin, it's like, oh, your sexuality is enclosed and not available.
Yeah.
But there's a garden in there you'd like to get in, but you can't because it's enclosed.
It's a flower.
Yeah. And there's a unicorn in there.
Speaking of the flowers, though, there is like something like 135 different botanical things represented in these tapestries. It's incredibly
wow.
Like that's why I was like, that should have been the Garth corner, is because like there's also this question of we don't know exactly who made it. There's the theory that it was made for that wedding, but that might not be true either. And
they might have retroactively made
and then
it for
the first and
wedding,
the
too.
last one don't seem to be the actually part of the original sequence. They were added after the fact, and they think that if it was for that king and the queen, the reason they put her in as the virgin is that it was her second marriage.
Oh, so they're trying to say like, oh, that didn't count. She's still a virgin.
Through Jesus and the magic of the unicorn, she is the virgin again.
There you go.
So it's fine because the first marriage was annulled without issue, which means she never bore a child, so it didn't count.
Oh, okay, got it.
In the eyes of God,
that doesn't count.
That doesn't count. So.
The loophole.
Yeah, and because it's in the Bible, they're still very adamant, like, hey, this is, a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real animal. It's somewhere else, far away. Then you start getting...
nice corner, Cody. Thanks for doing that.
Then, from there, people want the horn, because if it's a real animal, then the horns logically exist. Then you get the narwhal horns that are being passed off as unicorn horns, as well as the traditional just ground up rhino horn. At this time, they find a fossil of a Ice Age rhino. I think in Germany they find this thing, but it's a partial skeleton. So they have the skull, the horn, and some legs and part of a spine. And
that's a lot.
They put them together as this fucking crazy ass looking like bipedal creature that must have dragged its spine on the ground, and that was a way of like trying to like placate the church somehow. He's like, well, I think it's an extinct animal. Oh no, it's the unicorn that you guys are talking about.
Yeah, this isn't a new animal you don't know about. It's in the Bible. It's this guy.
But we'll put it in the it'll be on the Tumblr. It is ridiculous, this depiction.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see that one.
And I mentioned that, that's what the Siberian unicorn, it's extinct woolly rhino that they found in the permafrost up in Siberia.
I didn't know there were woolly rhinos.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you could have a woolly just about anything in the Ice Age.
Yeah, you take something, bring it up north, it'll get woolly.
Okay, then the Enlightenment kind of happens, and people start to kind of feel silly about the unicorn.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Has anyone actually seen one of these? No?
Yeah, the idea that it was a real animal kind of fades out.
It becomes mythic.
And then during the Victorian era, it becomes this animal of fantasy. It does show up. The reason why there's a reason why it's on the coat of arms for the British royal family.
Oh,
or the British crown,
and
that is that it is the somewhere along the way. It's in that book too. They talk about how its mortal enemy. Well, it has two enemies. Well, three really if you count the Virgin. But it's got dragons. They don't like dragons, and apparently lions are like their mortal enemy is the lion. And
but they share the same tail.
When
they have so much in common.
When they see the lion, they get so according to the
I think I've seen illustrations of lions and unicorns fighting.
So according to the king of Ethiopia, when a unicorn sees a lion, it gets so enraged that it immediately charges, right? But the lion starts running away. It climbs a tree. The unicorn runs into the tree and gets stuck fast, at which point the lion drops out of the tree and kills the unicorn.
The unicorn never thought of that.
But the British crown already had lions on their emblem, but then when they merged into the United Kingdom with Scotland, the Scottish crown had two unicorns, and they combined the two.
Kind of like how the Union Jack was a combination of flags.
Also interesting that the Scottish were the unicorns, the British were the lions, and the lions and unicorns hate each other, but then they unified, and now both of them appear on the crest.
Not fighting each other.
Yeah. There are actually depictions of hornless unicorns where they say, no, that is clearly a unicorn without a horn because it has the beard.
Unicorns have beards.
They have goat beards.
Oh, so there is some vestigial remnants of the goat
Yes.
version of a
Yeah,
unicorn.
and cloven hoofs. At a certain point, they start to say, well, maybe they have cloven hooves on the hind feet, but the front feet are like a horse.
Why
Even
can't we
more
have it
familiar.
both ways? We have 4 feet to work with. You could have cloven and not cloven.
Then there was one theologian who came out and said that they're actually demons and they're evil.
Sure, because of the goat part.
But that also might just be because there's still that inherent sexual thing about them. Like, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
according
They're
to
horny, yeah.
some accounts, they wanted to have sex with those virgins.
Right.
So,
Wow, there's a lot to it. I had no idea that.
and we
that
didn't even
it
touch on,
changed so
and we didn't even
much.
touch on like Chinese or Japanese.
They continued the tradition of
There's
unicorn
the
things.
there's the Kilin. I think it's Kilin. It's a Chinese unicorn.
It is like dragons. Wow.
Yes, it's a wide. I mean, yeah, this idea of a thing with one horn is just because it's different. Let me look at my very sparse notes to see where I wanted myself to go next. What are the bullet points here? History, art, pop culture, gays. Okay, we're almost there. So,
I love your shorthand notes. All right.
into the 20th century. We're going to get to when it becomes a pop culture icon because this
Yeah.
also ties into why it becomes popular in the queer community.
And associated with rainbows. It's always rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, I saw some references where people tried to claim that it was associated with rainbows in religious iconography in the Middle Ages, but I only found the Hunt of the Unicorn tapestry, and then there's another tapestry series called The Lady and the Unicorn, where they're not hunting the unicorn, but that one seems to be more about the idea of courtly love
Okay.
and chivalry.
And that's like a Beauty and the Beast scenario.
Because the unicorn also is, because it's explicitly male, it becomes a symbol of masculinity in all things that are male.
Yeah.
And so the taming of the unicorn is to tame the untamable base nature of a man.
Got it. It's so fascinating that has changed and become more associated with femininity. So I guess we're going to explore
We're
that
gonna
next.
explore
'Cause
that next,
that is a shift that I'm really interested to hear about.
So unicorn's always male.
Right.
One of the earliest references to a unicorn that is not a male, which ends up being the thing that kind of shapes the rest of unicorns going forward, is 1968, a novel called The Last Unicorn. Also made into a
This sounds
1982
familiar,
animated film by Rankin Bass.
That's probably what I've heard.
Yeah.
I don't think
Jeff
I've
Bridges
seen.
is in it.
I don't think I've
Christopher
seen it.
Lee's in it.
Oh,
Angela Lansbury.
Okay.
Alan Arkin.
wow.
Uh,
The Last Unicorn, huh?
the last music by the band America. Who wrote The Horse with No Name, Garth?
Yeah, I thought it
Hey!
was Neil Young, but it keeps being America.
Also, in the last episode, you mistakenly thought that Neil Young came up with "Don't Have to Live Like a Refugee." That's Tom Petty. I'm sorry,
Fuck,
Garth.
you're
We were
right.
looking for Tom Petty.
I always mix up Neil Young and Tom Petty.
and the
Shit.
band America.
And the
apparently.
band America. No, it is Tom Petty. Sorry, Tom Petty.
Okay, so
Oh, that was
The-
a bad mistake.
Last Unicorn, 1968 novel, fantasy novel for kids by American author Peter S. Beagle.
Hmm.
It's a story about the titular last
The
unicorn.
Last Unicorn.
Yeah, but it's a female unicorn. The protagonist is
Oh, okay.
a female unicorn. She goes looking for other unicorns along the way. She has friends. She makes friends.
Does she ever meet another unicorn?
Yeah, spoiler. There's more unicorns.
Oh, so she's not the last
But
unicorn.
here's the twist, though. At a certain point, she accidentally, through there's a magician who isn't really a magician, but he ends up actually causing magic one time when he accidentally turns her into a woman,
Oh.
because there's a monster that's this giant red bull that's trying to get all. It's a good movie. Go watch The Last
Okay,
Unicorn.
yeah.
I don't want to spoil it all, but she gets turned into a woman
Okay.
and then back into a unicorn at the end.
Oh,
But
good.
that's the first time we have a female unicorn character.
This
This
very
book-
recent.
Very popular. I think in 1987 poll, it was found to be one of the 10 best works of fantasy literature
Wow.
of the 20th century.
That's amazing.
Yeah, extremely popular. And so that starts to kind of make it a girl thing. That's 1968.
Okay.
And then in the 1970s, there is a girl who starts a jewelry business in Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, wow.
The business she starts is called Sticky Hands or Sticky Fingers,
Oh, okay.
right? And she's making like kind of tacky plastic jewelry.
Uh-huh.
But then she changes the name of the company and names it after herself. Her name, Lisa Frank.
Oh, a relative of yours?
No relation.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you're
Lisa-
Franks, not Frank.
Yeah. Lisa Frank, she is like an artist, graphic artist.
Okay.
Her style, very bright colors.
Oh.
And so she starts her company in I think 1974. By the early 80s, she is now making, they're making stationery, trapper keepers, binders.
Oh, wow.
You've seen Lisa Frank art. When you think
Okay.
bright, crazy colors with a unicorn,
Yeah, yeah.
that's Lisa Frank.
Wow, so she invented that. It's kind of like Coca-Cola inventing Santa Claus. Like you
Yes.
take an old thing and you'd like put your visual stamp on it and that becomes what everyone thinks.
Yeah, I'd say
Wow.
like Lisa Frank is in the pantheon of bad art in the she's like right next to
It's like-
Kincaid.
It's like pop commercial art.
Yes.
That like I will have a rainbow unicorn in every house in America. That's my goal.
And then she does other animals like panda bears and stuff like that. And they're all kind of this airbrush style.
Gotcha.
I started to go down the Lisa Frank rabbit hole.
And your eyes burned out of your sockets.
it went
after
to,
a
it was
while.
going to some very dark places. So
no,
like,
very brightly colored places.
but dark.
Oh.
So her art, Lisa Frank became like quintessential to what it meant to be a girly girl in
Right.
the 80s and 90s. Lisa Frank herself described herself as always being, and this is her words, a girly girl.
Got it.
She was interested
the
in things that
Barbie
were, yes,
stuff.
things
Yeah.
that were to be a girl.
Yeah.
Oddly, there's like no pictures of her. There's only like 2 known pictures of Lisa Frank.
Wow. That's
She's an extremely
crazy.
private person.
Huh.
And then I ended up going down. I read an article by Jezebel.
Jezebel.
Yeah. Was
What's Jezebel?
online magazine, kind of sometimes tabloid type, but it's like feminist girl.
Oh, okay.
And I'm probably doing that great disservice by describing that. Anyway, it was called Into the Rainbow Gulag.
Oh
And it
no.
was, and then I think that was turned into a documentary a couple years ago.
Would she have like sweatshops producing artwork?
Apparently working for her at her headquarters in Tucson, Arizona
Tucson, Arizona.
was a very awful experience for people. And
Wow.
it seems to be there's a weird corporate culture there of complete control, not so much by her, but by her husband up until a certain point.
Huh.
So like early in the 80s, she gets her first at the age of 25, she gets her first $1 million contract.
Wow.
And then that becomes the Lisa Frank company. And then the first like graphic artist that she hires to work with her ends up rising up the corporate ladder. They start a relationship. In 1994, they get married. They have 2 kids. By 2005, they're getting a divorce. His name was
Oh.
James Green. He became like the CEO and like took over the company from the inside because she kind of like stayed home to raise the kids.
Oh, okay.
And he was managing things, and with the help of his secretary, who was like this crazy, like the way it was described by the people who worked for them was like, no, they would like scream at people. They like abused people. They kept it very cold in there. And him and his secretary apparently had like a not so secret. They were fucking each other. They just started having an
Wow.
affair and running the company as like tyrants. Don't think that Lisa Frank though is innocent in this, because like she kind of catches wind of what's going on and slowly starts to like take control back, because he just kept getting stock from her. So they're the only 2 shareholders are her and him.
Oh wow.
And they each have like half the company. Anyway, she ends up like suing him, forcing him out, and divorcing him all at the same time, like 2005. And then from that point on, for the next like 10 plus years, it's just constant lawsuits between the 2 of them. He ends up converting to Christianity and starting a company called Salvation LLC that sells like promotion, like inspirational fucking. It's basically he took the Lisa Frank, like, let's do all these bright colored things, but make it Christian. So,
Wow.
make it
You have to
objectively
have an
worse.
angle, yeah.
It kind of fell out of fashion and then it kind of had a resurgence with
Yeah, I
this
feel
like
like
kind of
it's
retro.
it's so clearly kitschy and
Yes.
yeah. I mean, is that still popular now? It's popular in an ironic way now.
But it was through well, it's more that people just like things that are retro from 30
Yeah.
years ago.
For sure.
And then there was just a movie called Lisa Frankenstein that came out, written by Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno. But the thing is that because all things Lisa Frank became so intrinsically tied to girl in the 80s and 90s,
Okay.
it's particularly girls and their school supplies,
Yeah.
right? Or
Trapper
their
Keepers.
diaries, all this like stationery.
Yeah, all the bright pink colors.
Lisa Frank, at one point, the company was trying to like open a theme park. They wanted to be, if not like the American Hello Kitty brand, because they had characters that were
Right.
like stock characters as well. They also thought that they could be rivals to Disney at some point with this
That's
kitsch
ambitious.
stuff, right? But that's also when, besides it being tied to girl, and the idea that unicorns are girl things when before they were male,
Right.
that creates this aura of almost, this is why it starts to become popular with the queer community.
Well, I was
Because
wondering,
it's like an intersex thing.
I was wondering about this because the queer community for a long time has had the rainbow flags.
Yes.
Rainbow as a symbol, and that's been around for
Since,
my whole
like,
lifetime.
I
Maybe
think
before
that,
the 80s.
yeah, I was looking into that, and I think it was like the earliest time that was used for like gay pride type stuff was like 1968, maybe?
So that's been around a while, and rainbows and unicorns go together.
Yes. And so
And
that was one
Did they
idea.
go together with Lisa
Well,
Frank?
because she used such vibrant, like she would have a unicorn with a rainbow colored mane.
Right. So I'm wondering,
Or
is
rainbow-colored
she the
horn.
one that first married unicorns with rainbows?
No, that's what I was trying to get to the bottom of.
Okay,
'Cause it said that,
that's the
like,
question.
yeah.
Because then that would automatically go along with the gay flag. So you can
So
see
there
how
was,
those
yeah,
are
yeah,
mixed
yeah.
together
So
and
the
look-
idea,
yeah.
like I was seeing references, but I'd see references to, but not actual examples of people saying that rainbows and unicorns were tied together in medieval art. But that might
Yeah.
also just be like, well, rainbows are a symbol of God's promise to
right,
Noah.
yeah, post
and if
flood,
yeah,
you see rainbows, and there's also going to be a unicorn coming out of the ark. So they're
So maybe
it's a coincidence that they're together. Yeah.
But with Lisa Frank and her colorful rainbow, I mean, we know that there was a version of unicorns in the past that had bright colors, but they were red, purple, white, and black.
That's like half of a rainbow. Yeah.
You combine all the rainbow, you get white. So, because of The Last Unicorn and the success of Lisa Frank and the commercialization of unicorns, because they became trendy, that's why you have movies like Legend starring Tom Cruise and Tim Curry, and Sloane from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It is about unicorns,
Mhm.
right? But that I'd argue that movie was only able to be made because of the popularity of unicorns afforded by The Last Unicorn, Lisa Frank, and then a bunch of like progressive rock adopting and fantasy artists adopting unicorns again because they became trendy. So then they start showing up more.
Okay.
And it was at this point where I kind of had this thought that it popped into my head, and it was, and lo, I beheld a pale horse with a single horn, and the rider upon that horse was named Capitalism.
The fifth horseman of the apocalypse.
Yes. Rides a unicorn. and is
Rides a
named-
unicorn.
And is named Capitalism. Because going all the way back to
Yeah.
like the early stories in antiquity of the unicorn, there was a trade in unicorn horn. It was a marketable thing.
Yeah, it's
people-
always been tied with as a consumer good.
Yes, and then
Yeah, wow.
using it as a form of propaganda in art to sell a message in the Middle Ages.
Sure.
And then
wow, that's a good through line. I like
And
that.
then we end up into like the 80s when, Lisa Frank, and then it becomes a trendy thing.
Selling it to
Girls
little
like
girls with
My Little
Barbie.
Pony had Pegasus and unicorn characters. People always
Okay.
forget that My Little Pony started in the 80s. That was the first.
It's been around a long
That's
time.
the golden age, and then you had like the pony renaissance in the 2000s. Are we in the Bronze Age now? I don't know. So
Well, and I guess now was I off the mark when I mentioned, oh yeah, unicorns are gay? Like, has gay
No.
culture adopted it at
yes,
all, or is it just
actually,
a feminine
no, they
thing?
actually no. Currently, unicorns are kind of considered next to the rainbow flag one of the like symbols of queerness, and that seems to be a very personal thing to a lot of people.
That's interesting.
When I tried to get to the bottom of when did this start, a lot of people said, well, I just see a lot of myself and my experience in the unicorn. The unicorn is considered something that is rare. And a lot of people who are gay or queer say that for a long part of their life, until they like realized there was a community, they thought they were the only one.
They feel like
they are the last unicorn,
an individual in a sea of heterosexuality.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have already, there's this affinity, or this like, I can relate to that feeling of being something that is also treated as mythical by a lot of people.
Yeah, like it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
true.
seem to be alone. I'm looking for, in the book, The Last Unicorn, they coin a term for a collective group of unicorns or a herd. It's called a blessing of unicorns.
Of course it is.
So you have a lot of queer people who are looking for their blessing. And,
okay.
and then there's also that idea of it being an untamed thing, something wild, and a lot of people dealing with their own sexuality is like it's
something that they would like to have control over.
Yeah,
maybe.
or it's just like it's kind of wild, it's undefined.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
The shift of unicorns going from something that was masculine to now something that is feminine means it's intersexed, and so a lot of people
that's
can
a good
see
one. Yeah,
that connection as well. So there's a lot of reasons why it speaks to the gay culture.
Yeah, I was thinking it was just, maybe gay men traditionally taking on more traditionally like feminine iconography, and unicorns would be with that.
But
there's
unicorns
a lot
went the other way.
But there's a lot more depth to it, and all
Yeah.
these other angles I would not have thought of. That's really interesting.
And of course, yeah, then there is an expression that was used politically at one point about saying someone they're wishing for unicorns and rainbows, or they're looking for
Rainbows and unicorns,
rainbows and
is a
unicorns,
very
yeah.
popular term, and
Yeah.
that's like I guess sort of a idealistic, naive
Yes.
utopia.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Then of course there is the one that there's the idea of, I've already made a joke about it before, about a unicorn being like in polyamorous relationships, when they want a unicorn, which is the person who's unattached and available for.
I see. So this is my fantasy person that's
Yeah.
sex with no commitments. My
Yeah,
unicorn.
something that doesn't exist. Yeah, right.
Right,
And to
right,
me,
right,
it's
I
like,
see.
come on, humans are human beings. I mean, if that's your thing, I'm not going to yuck your yum.
Well, sure.
But
some
humans
people-
are individuals with feelings, and not
Well,
your sex toy, unless
yeah.
they're into it.
Well, they might be into it.
Yeah.
But good luck finding one. It's about as hard as finding a unicorn, I guess. Is
But
the
here's the
idea,
thing: is
yeah.
I also said at the beginning, I kind of teased, I believe, that I don't think I like unicorns.
I thought that's just because you're sick of researching them.
No. And here's the thing is that I love that they are this symbol for the gay culture. The queer community has, and we just explained all the reasons why it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's the commercialization and
Sure.
the fact that a unicorn is now, just like, when did they get associated with candy? What's that deal? There's like candy that I remember, you can buy candy that's unicorn poop, and it's like brightly colored candy. Like the idea that, unicorns are all about, it's because, they were being used because they're bright colors. They're being used to sell candy and cereal.
Because it's marketed toward kids, it's
Yeah.
going to be the most basic
and that you're like, okay, so,
cynical thing.
Yeah. And I feel it's weird that it's this thing that became super popular again by being marketed specifically to a certain gender to enforce the gender
reinforce-
ideals of the creator, who described herself as a girly girl who thought girls should only do certain things.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've always had against Barbie and just girly girl stuff. Nothing wrong with liking that, but to be like, oh, here's what a girl is. It just
But Barbie's got other jobs.
it pulls
now.
Sure, but it just pulls away boys from girls. Like, boys are this way, girls are another, and
Did you
never the
did you
twain
see the
shall
Barbie
meet.
movie?
I kind of liked it. All right.
Yeah, no, I think it was great.
It was pretty good. I'm glad I went in hearing that it was good, and I saw it. I was like, okay, I see what they did.
Okay, yeah,
I liked it.
got it.
Yeah.
So I guess what I said, I didn't like unicorns. It was just the capitalism aspect of unicorns that I
Yes.
don't like.
Oh, for
Where
real.
It's like,
for real,
okay, yeah, they're like, now it's like pretty ubiquitous. They're everywhere, and used in different ways. That it's like, okay, how much of it is just selling stuff? And then it makes me kind of think about, like, remember I saw a really funny but also upsetting comic that was like the marketing person coming into like the office and they're like, hey, it was like 2012, like, hey, happy Pride Month. And he was like, hey, it's Pride. No, it was a sketch. That's right. It was a sketch. He was like, happy Pride. We're going to put like rainbows on everything. Everything's going to be gay, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And there's like Pride 2025, where like now the guy who is at the cubicle says to the executive, hey, happy Pride Month. And the guy goes, what? Oh yeah, that.
We're not doing that this year.
Yeah, we're gonna put like a tiny little flag like over here, and it's like, wait, so this was never actually about anything more than just you making money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, that disingenuous thing.
Yep. Or I remember just only a couple years ago, Pride Month was big in all the department stores, and
yeah,
what's the political wind shift a little bit?
Because corporations are not your friends.
Yep, and if anytime they seem to be being progressive or going with like values that you like, they are doing this in a calculated way so that you will give them money. It's never any other thing.
You know, J.K. Rowling put unicorns in Harry Potter as the symbol of purity. That to kill a unicorn was a great sin, right?
Yeah, and I think Voldemort was drinking the unicorn blood, which is silver. And I don't remember anything else about it.
I bring it up because, speaking of capitalists taking advantage of the queer community who they don't support, J.K. Rowling.
It's Dumbledore's gay. All right. Also, trans people.
I think it's weird that our most reposted and liked skeet, I guess that's what they're called, on Blue Sky, is me chastising the actor Nick Frost for being a terrible ally. And that, I just saw that connection now between that and like, oh yeah, unicorns, Harry Potter, fuck J.K. Rowling, fuck the commercialization of all this shit. Basically, it was that,
is he going to be Hagrid?
He's going to be Hagrid, a new thing, and somebody actually confronted him like, hey, you claim to be like a trans and queer ally, but you're going to be working with her. How do you rectify the two things? And he's like, oh, well, I think I can work on this and have different beliefs than her. And that's just fine. It's like, but you're making her money by doing it.
Yeah. At what point are you?
What I said was that you cannot be a good ally if you betray your allies for the sake of fame, money, or comfort.
Yeah.
You know, I bring that up because, if you're going to commercialize people, and then when the politics shift and you're like, actually, you know what? The money's not there anymore.
The money's not there. Suddenly, it's like, but those are the. Well, I
argue the money is there because by sticking up for what's right, you have loyal customer base who
I would say
stand
so.
you. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. What was it? Groucho Marx says, well, those are my beliefs. If you don't like them, I have others.
Oh, yeah. But he also said I would never belong to an organization that would have me as a member. So.
Said a lot of good things. Well, that's unicorns, guys.
I think so. I think that's where we're going to go on unicorns. Happy Pride. And if the unicorn is something that you, don't let the capitalists take it from you, I guess is the point.
A unicorn means whatever you want it to mean.
As we found, yeah. You know, I mean, it's
been a lot over the years. Yeah.
The barest criteria appears to be one horn. Although in one woodcut, it does say that there's a 2-horned variety of unicorn. So a bicorn. So you get a bicorns.
The rare 2-horned unicorn.
Yeah. And also when the narwhal was when it was well known that narwhals were a thing, it actually just kind of reaffirmed the existence of unicorns to some people, because as we discussed in, I think, our Kraken episode, there was this idea that for every creature that lived on land, this is the mermaid episode.
There's an equivalent in the ocean.
In the ocean.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's a unicorn in the ocean means that, ergo, transitive property, there's a land version of a narwhal.
I think I mentioned this in that episode, but it really shook me to my core about my understanding of the world when, as a teenager, I learned that there was such a thing as a narwhal. Because I'd grown up never hearing of narwhals or ever seeing them depicted. And then somebody showed me a narwhal and I was like, bullshit. You're telling me that there's like this weird dolphin orca thing that has a giant horn? That is so fake. And I was like, sure, it was fake. And then, no, there really are narwhals. And I was like, okay, hold on. I have to reassess all the other creatures.
There are far stranger.
Are there jackalopes? If there can be a narwhal, what else could there be?
You know what? I wouldn't. Oh, yeah. In that book, they talked about finding unicorn horns underground while digging foundations of buildings, they would find unicorn horns. But they said it must have been a weird thing where the unicorn's horn curled back on itself so that it was almost a full circle. They're finding mammoth tusks.
Oh, wow.
Isolated mammoth tusks.
Well, they're
out
getting
of
closer
context
because a narwhal's
a tusk
thing is actually a tusk. Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting.
But yeah, it is possible that at some point there might have been some horse that had that the virus, the palinoma virus.
Oh, that's right. What they made the jackalopes.
Yeah, so it might have had a growth. That's possible.
Sure.
There are human beings who have had a horn, quote unquote, human unicorns in Ripley's Believe It or Not and stuff like that, which it is exactly what it is. It's just they have the HPV virus and it caused a horn-like protrusion to grow out of their head.
That just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Imagining
Did it turn it
having
into a
one of
horn?
those. You know, Cody, I think we might have some Monster Squadron people.
Yes, we do have some squatties.
The Squatties, they call themselves. I'm going to play this Peruvian flute. Are you ready?
Yes. Set the mood, Garth. Set the pure mood. Garth is setting the pure mood for our Monster Squatty Squadron. Such great patrons as Travis Alexander, the Bi Barbarian, and who could forget Rachel Krieger. The timeless support of Tom Dahl, and who could forget Justin Deckham. Kelly Flynn, Gunnar Franks, Carla Harrington as well. And how about Havelock, Christina Hurley, and the new Jared? Ken with 2 N's, TJ Levenhagen, Alicia Overton, Jordan Ramey, a different one, but the same one, the Blue Roan, SETI fan, and of course, Tatum. All can be yours for the low price of $19.95 on 2 cassettes or 1 CD. Call now. Visit patreon.com to find out more.
I'm out of breath. All right.
Okay. So happy Pride to everybody. Congratulations to Garth on your wedding tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Future. Yeah. It makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Maybe there'll be a unicorn there.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy Pride. I don't know if there's gonna be another episode by the end of this month or Pride.
Well, we're doing this now because I'll be busy next week. So no, I don't think so.
This comes out 20th.
Yeah, because the 20th.
Oh, the next release day is the 4th of July, Garth.
Oh my gosh. What? Well, we'll have to see what country we're in.
Actually, I've already decided. July is going to be UFO month.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I've got a couple things in the bag for that one
because we're coming up on a couple important anniversaries.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So until then, remember, unicorns have cloven hooves, and the only thing that's haunted
is unicorns.
Laughing at
you. Say goodbye.
Kid, unicorns can't see into your heart. All our dumb horns can do is glow, point towards the nearest rainbow, and play rave music.
The Least Haunted podcast is recorded before a dead studio audience and is a presentation of Sequoia Productions, LLC.